Go ahead and call the meeting to order. We'll start with a roll call. McKee here, Lanterman.
Here.
Councilor Bodema is not here tonight. Varenkamp.
Here.
And Nichols.
Here.
Like to stand and join me in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Agenda approval. Looks like there's a couple, maybe one added item and one revised item, 6M and 8C.
Yes, Mayor. 6M was actually brought back from a previous council meeting. We had language wrong in the finance portion.
Okay.
And specifically, it said that there would be no impact on the budget. And since it was tracked as a receivable, and if you recall, these were receivables that we didn't think were collectible, but will no longer be tracked. And so then that's tracked as an expense because we'll no longer have that revenue. And then last item 8C added the write-in tallies, which you should have at the dais. So that was revised. No other changes.
Any other changes from council? I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as modified.
So moved. Nichols.
Second, Varenkamp.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Perfect. Then we'll go on. We have two presentations, and the first one is the oath of office for Councilor Mark Lanterman. I think Deb,
Right up in front. So we can get the new Corcoran sign in the back.
Peter,
Oh, yeah.
we need security guards.
Color guard.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Mark Lanterman,
I, Mark Lanterman,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to support the Constitution of the United States,
to support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and to discharge faithfully, justly, and impartially,
well, that's a long one. Say that again.
Good.
and to discharge faithfully,
Yeah.
justly, and impartially,
And to discharge faithfully, justly, and impartially
the duties of the office of council member for the city of Corcoran, Minnesota,
the duties of the office of council member for the city of Corcoran, Minnesota,
and to do so with my best judgment and ability.
and to do so with my best judgment and ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Now you have to say it backwards.
I'm getting old, I can't remember that much.
I did the same thing with my wedding vows, and it was not good. Guy talked too fast.
Do we want to wait for them to leave, or do you want to make them stay here?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Good job, man.
See you guys.
Take care of you
Make sure to
guys.
send us this picture,
Good to
the
see y'all.
pictures and the video. I'm going in newsletter. Alrighty. And for 4B, we have, I'll read a resolution that we have on our consent agenda that we'll shortly approve, 6C. But just honoring veterans, as Veterans Day has just recently passed us by on this past Monday. So whereas the residents of the city of Corcoran have great respect, admiration, and the utmost gratitude for the men and women who have selflessly served our country in the armed forces at home and abroad, in times of peace and in times of conflict, and whereas the contributions and sacrifices of those who have served in the armed forces have been vital in maintaining the freedoms and way of life enjoyed by our citizens, and whereas veterans have often faced challenges transitioning to civilian life, including a lack of adequate support from their community and recognition for their service, whereas the city of Corcoran seeks to honor all individuals who have served in the armed forces, making countless sacrifices for freedom by placing themselves second for the good of all, and whereas Armistice Day was initially celebrated in the United States on November 11th, 1919, as a day dedicated to the cause of world peace at the end of World War I, and made a legal holiday by Congress on May 13th, 1938. And whereas Armistice Day was renamed Veterans Day on June 1st, 1954, in honor of all who have served in the United States Armed Forces, and whereas the city of Corcoran appreciates the sacrifices of all our United States military personnel and recognizes that Veterans Day, which was celebrated on November 11th, 2024, is an opportunity for our grateful nation to pause and honor the contributions and service of those who have served. Now therefore be it resolved by the City of Corcoran that the City Council hereby encourages all citizens in patriotic tradition to honor and support those who have chosen to make the immeasurable sacrifices necessary to preserve our freedoms.
Here, here.
Thank you. Very much, everyone.
Yeah, everyone who served. Alrighty,
Can I say something about that?
please do.
So I've only been in the city for 11 months, but as I travel around and I meet folks, like one of our residents, Denny Steeg, who have quietly served not only in the military, most folks don't know, but then continued to quietly serve in our community, in civic organizations, in church communities. That spirit of service continues to resonate. And I've been surprised how many folks are veterans and don't make a big deal out of it. They just continue to quietly serve. And so the reason I wanted to ask you to bring this forward is because I think we need to continue to recognize that even though we're a small town, there's a lot of big hearts who've done a lot of big service for our nation and in our community.
Including yourself. You've served, how many years did you serve?
Just shy of 29.
A long time. In the Marines and Army, so thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty. And with that, we will move on to open forum. We have anyone?
Mr. Mayor, we've received one card.
Okay,
So Joshua Adams and his brother Nathan Adams, 2120 County Road 10 here in Corcoran. They want to make some comments and talk about a business opportunity that they are exploring.
okay,
So,
sounds good.
If
Come on
you
up.
would please walk up and, again, state your name. I did, but, and speak to the dais.
Am I gonna go into this thing or will it catch me?
You're okay where you
I think you're good.
Good evening, city council members. I want to start by congratulating you all on your election and re-election wins. My name is Joshua Adams, and as he said, I live at 21020 County Road 10. It's located in a bank of houses just past Game Road on the right when you're traveling west on 10. I'm here representing myself and my brother and business partner Nathan Adams in hopes of starting a discussion on a business that we would like to start here in Corcoran. I've lived in Corcoran for the past 10 years now, and there's been a lot of change in that time. Many new developments, a water tower, fiber internet, and now even a Domino's. It is during this time that something else has also changed. The state passed legislation that legalized recreational cannabis for those age 21 and older. My brother and I would like to bring Corcoran to the forefront of one of these markets, agricultural cannabis. We are hoping, with the council's support, to cultivate high-quality cannabis flower plant crop that will be in turn sold to dispensaries, cannabis delivery companies, pre-packaging facilities, and kitchens for use in cannabis-infused cuisine and edibles. We have met with your city administrator about zoning requirements for our small business because the first phase of our business requires us to grow our crop indoors in our own residential basement space of about 650 square feet. When the time comes, our business intends to apply to the state for a cannabis micro license. Micro business license, I'm sorry. This license will allow us to grow a maximum of 5,000 square feet of vegetative crop. However, as stated before, we do not intend to start at such scale during our first phase. Due to the extreme proximity of the city of Corcoran to Minneapolis-St. Paul, the largest cannabis market in the state, we feel our business would have a strategic advantage to succeed and flourish for all involved. We would love for the city of Corcoran to be involved. It is our belief that by having your support when applying for a license, it would greatly increase the chances of our application being approved. If any of you have questions, please feel free to seek me out after this meeting, and I would be happy to answer them in private. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. Anyone
We have
else?
no other cards or emails.
Sounds good. Anyone online? Or, no, we're not doing that, are we? Out of curiosity, anyone online watching? Is it Jeremy?
At this time.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. Then we will go on to consent agenda, which consists of items 6A through 6M, which was added. Does anyone want to pull anything? Going once, going twice, okay. I will entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items 6A through 6M.
So moved. Nichols.
Second, Veracamp.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Dean?
Yes, I'm sorry.
No worries. Alrighty, no unfinished business tonight. Let me catch up on my sheet here. And we are on to unfinished business. So 8A, which is the Community Development Department Brief and 2025 Budget. I think Natalie's gonna be presenting?
Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Perfect. So I would like to start with the 2024 organizational chart. Community development, as you know, is a new department. These were existing business units previously housed under administration and public works. And for efficiency, we are now operating under community development. With this change, a new position was added for community development director. The previous planner was appointed to that role, myself. And then the previous planning technician, which is a role highlighted in blue, is now our planner. And the planning technician position has been vacant since July. Other than that, there haven't been any other structure changes. Next slide. Going into 2025, the biggest change is the community development assistant role. So the planning technician role would be eliminated and repurposed to community development assistant to provide necessary administrative assistance to all three divisions. And then, other than that, we aren't proposing any structure changes. Next slide. So as part of the budget, tonight, planning is requesting for 2025 a budget of $418,000, and that also includes the code enforcement budget. We're in an attempt to simplify our business units. The code enforcement business unit is being eliminated, so that's why it is showing a budget of 0. But that is now being absorbed by planning, because our planner is our code enforcement officer as well. So code enforcement request is 0, kind of. And then construction services is requesting a budget of $796,000 in 2025. And recreation requests a budget of $275,000 and some change. So a total request of $1,489,832 compared to what these business units were operating in 2024. That's a budget increase of about $264,000, about 20%. And I'll go over those material increases next. So for the planning budget, the biggest material increase that we're seeing is in the personnel costs. The 2024 budget did not include a community development director position, and so that in itself is one of the bigger increases to the budget. So the 2025 budget now includes a 70% of the community development director role, as well as 60% of the requested community development assistant role. And that includes personnel costs beyond wages. It also includes the benefits, training, and professional memberships that come along with those roles. Additionally, the personnel costs that were previously housed under code enforcement for the planner or planning technician are now entirely housed under planning, which is another reason why you're seeing an increase. About $66,000 of that is an increase from the code enforcement budget. And then also there's some budget items that are out of our control that are causing an increase, such as the worker compensation insurance has increased, and then the cost of benefits as well. So then we go to code enforcement. Oh, sorry. So yeah, just reiterating that $66,000 is being taken out of a code enforcement business unit due to the change. So that's now part of why planning has gone up. Next slide. Construction services, professional services is the biggest material increase for that division. That is our building official and building inspectors with Metro West. We're budgeting about $50,000 more compared to 2024, and this is because of increased building permit review and building inspections are anticipated based on all of the projects that were approved in 2024. So the good news is this should be offset by the revenue that we're taking in. It's just we want to make sure that we're budgeting on the front end as well. The recreational personnel costs, again, are a material increase of about 88,000. So again, this was a result of simplifying a different budget. So there's a parks budget that Kevin will go over, and we are now trying to transition to that being considered a parks maintenance budget. So the Parks and Recreation manager, their pay was partly paid for out of the recreation budget as well as the parks budget. And in an attempt to deconflict her summer, or that role's salary will now be entirely covered under the recreation costs. Additionally, that is true for the ice rink attendants, and the personnel costs will also include part of the community development assistant position and the community development director position. So next slide. And then there's a $22,000 increase for the community engagement program, which is now a function under recreation that was not called out in the 2024 budget. So the community engagement was formalized as part of the recreation team as part of the community development department restructure. And then this includes community events that were previously paid for by various other budgets. Specifically, $7,000 was earmarked for Night to Unite that will now be taken care of out of this budget being proposed. And then it'll also be a fund to cover the costs of other engagement efforts, including city events such as Bark in the Park, the Holiday Toy and Food Drive, and other workshops. So I anticipate that this would be the fund if we want to host any workshops for the 2050 comprehensive plan with the community. This would be the budget that helps pay for that. And then any other platforms that we might need to improve and increase community engagement, not necessarily tied to an event, but other efforts, this would be where we would pull that, the funds for. Next slide. So tonight, the request is for you to provide feedback on the proposed material budget changes. Staff is also asking for authorization to proceed with recruitment and hiring of the community development assistant position with a start date no earlier than January 2nd. The budget includes wages, assuming a start date of January 2nd. But we would like the chance to start the recruiting process now so we can actually have someone on board with that start date.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Natalie?
Mr. Mayor, just real quick, thank you for doing a budget related to Night to Unite and all of those things. I think that's important for our community to support that way instead of relying on all donations and those kind of things. So thanks for putting the numbers together. I think I was the one that asked for that. And I appreciate it. It's a great thing we do, so I don't want to lose that. So that was all I had.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a better way to account for it too. It's just easier than knowing which department is kind of funding which event, with whether it's PD or whatever for different, you know, 19.8 or whatever. Just having its own category, I think, is great. So
That simplifying, Mayor, has been something that we've been talking about just as department heads. We're trying to simplify the chart of accounts so that it's clear, not only in terms of how we're doing things, but also clear when somebody looks at our budget, what happens. And so the commingling that has occurred in the past makes it confusing. You know, when part of our recreation operations are housed in the parks budget, that gets a little bit blurry. So putting that together, and like you called out, code enforcement, as Natalie called out, cleaning that up. Why do we?
Hi, nice to meet you.
And so
They're
we're
having a
continuing,
dessert
and we'll
festival
continue
in
that with cleaning
DC
our chart of accounts. So
this
it's easier to
coming
understand.
Saturday by a basketball practice on Sunday, 11:30 to 12:30.
What was envisioned there? Is that going to be a dedicated
It's so
separate
much
workforce, or are we
fun.
just going to be charging time from Public Works employees against that account when they're working on parks?
So Kevin will actually talk about that as part of his budget.
That'll be
brief
more in the
if we
next
can. This was just calling out that the recreation components will no longer be there, and that's why rather than both of them briefing it, it's just cleaner.
Good.
cool. Anything else? Okay, if there's nothing else, I will entertain a motion to authorize recruitment and hiring of the community development assistant position, administrative assistant position, with a start date no earlier than January 2nd, 2025, subject to approval by the mayor and city administrator.
So moved. Second, Camp.
Nichols Varenkamp. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that part is approved. We need a motion on the item itself or just consensus on the number? I think we're good with the number as drafted.
No other motions are necessary.
Okay, perfect. Then on to 8B. Kevin.
Sure, thank you, Mayor and Council. I will walk us through the Public Works Department budget presentation. Most of my changes were related to raw materials, as you'll see, but there were a couple updates to staffing or proposed staffing, and they would primarily be consideration of a city engineer titled to the Public Works Director position, as well as utility billing being absorbed into Public Works. It was housed with finance under administration previously, and so that's been identified as a role for our administrative assistant. And then the only, yeah, if you can go to the next slide, the only personnel change, and I can touch on this more later, was really roughly a half FTE for part-time employees, seasonal employees, primarily related to additional park space that we're acquiring through the development process that we have to maintain. Next slide, please. Here's a summary of the Public Works budget. More sophistication to come with this budget as we carve out a utility, more of a primary, sewer and water utility division. So we started the deconflicting with Parks and Rec, but in future budgets, I anticipate more deconflicting in my internal Public Works department between sewer and water, and then additionally between parks and roads and whatnot. So this is kind of phase one of a more comprehensive separation in coming budgets. Overall, the budget increase was $300,000, or roughly 9.8%. The primary, like I said, if we walk line by line, highways, streets, and roadways was increased roughly $135,000. Paved streets, which is a category really for maintenance projects and maintenance materials, increased $55,000, or 17.2%. Unpaved streets is another material cost related to bids that increased $115,000, or roughly 30%.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
Kevin, just real quick, I know the answer, but the cost of those increases related to cost of materials?
Correct, yep.
And overall cost of materials have gone up how much from last year to this year?
He's actually going to break it down by
Yep, it breaks
business
down
unit.
roughly 25 to 35%.
Deal.
So we're in this budget, we just accounted for the price increases. We didn't change the
Yep.
volume of the product that we had.
Yep,
The volume of the product, really, we're probably a little bit behind than where we need to be, but we just basically applied what we saw for bid prices and just applied up. So we didn't change our program, we just are accounting for the new material price.
Yep, nope, if you're gonna do the breakout, that's great, I just wanted to
Okay.
make sure that was out there in the open. Thank you, Kevin. Thanks,
Yep, and
Mr. Mayor.
then, really no change with engineering. Recycling is really housed and was talked about previously, as well as recreation. It's technically in our budget, but it's, Natalie just touched on it, we deconflicted it here since the August budget. And then parks had some adjustments. Like I said, there is a half FTE in there for additional part-time help, seasonal employees. It's offset by some of the removals that Natalie touched on previously. So a little bit more detail here. Line item, which is part-time employees, it increased a little over $31,000. That looks like a huge increase, 44.6%. That had to do with how we were breaking down and reallocating stuff. So all of our seasonal employees are really dumped into parks right now for a simplification, and then the other employees are allocated to operations, as well as you'll see in a future budget, sewer and water enterprise took on a little bit more role now that we have a facility and we're producing water. So that really was just related to some additional seasonal help there, although the increase is pretty high. Just wanted to call out with this one, it's under the $25,000 threshold, but in the previous budget, we had a $100,000 placeholder on streetscape beautification with City Center Drive. That was a wild shot. We talked about this a couple other meetings, but we've now reduced that to $20,000. We think over time, depending on how we want to use that in terms of plantings, number of banners, events, that number, we need to spend more time brainstorming on what we want to do there and how we want to use that space over time. So we anticipate that going up over time, but we wanted to have some in there for at least maybe one round of banners, maybe some plantings. We can have a future conversation before we spend any of those resources, but we wanted to get our foot in the door since we have a new road and we have St. Terese residents and we're connected to City Hall. So we did reduce that by $80,000 from the August budget.
I thought that we had reduced that to 0.
There was a conversation about reducing it to 0. I recommended 20,000. I thought we were at 20,000, but that's up for topic today. My recommendation is we keep money in there to be able to start the process, but that's for
And
council to discuss.
Mr. Mayor, too, what I thought of too, or what I remembered too, we talked about banner donations from local organizations and stuff, if there's that opportunity and stuff to keep those costs down and initially not do a whole lot right out of the gate. But if it's something that's there, I can understand what you're doing.
We still have mulch, we still have planting,
Yeah.
there's a lot of landscaping
Yeah.
there, so I think we should, it's up to the council, I think we should have something in there, cause it will be a cost, so we would be cheating out of other accounts to address it more than likely as my recommendation, so, you know, we, again, like I said, we will not spend any of that money without coming back to the council, it's kind of an undetermined budget, but we think that there is mulch, up to at least one round of banners, lighting, plantings, we foresee that.
It can help us do a little trial and error too to see what we
Yeah.
want to do on a larger scale down the road.
Yep, so again, open for conversation, but again, we reduced it from 100 to 20, and you guys can provide further input if necessary. There's a line item for electric utilities, there's a 40,000 increase, that's 200%, that's really, a couple months ago, we had a conversation on how to handle this new street lights that are anticipated to come on and be our responsibility. And the determination was to keep them spread across the community just like we do for dust control. So that was kept in a line item instead of being on a more user basis. So there's anticipate that going up over the years, but it's a $400,000 increase for 2025.
40,000.
Yeah,
Sorry,
40,000,
excuse me,
yeah.
40,000.
Okay, I was gonna say, we better turn off some lights. For 400.
So I remember our conversation when we had the solar lighting discussion, that it could be a design standard for future developments to keep that cost from continuing to grow at that level, but it would take code changes. Is that something we could discuss at our strategic planning session in January?
I think whatever you guys kind of can set the agenda for what you want to talk about. I think what you're maybe referring to is maybe the policy and the outlay for the streetlights, or is that?
So when we had the discussion 2 or 3 months ago about the streetlight policy, I remember John and I, maybe some others, agreeing with the idea that it would be best not to continue to accrue additional streetlights under Wright-Hennepin's policy, where we continue to pay the utilities. And in return for that, they install them for free because the lifetime costs seemed to be fairly high. I think it was like $16 a month per light. And the payback period was not unreasonable for solar variants that seemed to potentially be better for the dark skies program as well, with timers and motion sensors, as a way to keep long-term expenses down and keep the feel of the city more rural. So I'd like to talk about that more.
Yeah, as we go into our goal setting for 2024, that's definitely a potential topic if that's what the council wants us to focus on as we look at our zone and code.
Okay.
Could I ask a question?
Yeah.
So here I see 300,000, 350,000 for repair and maintenance, but a few slides ago, you had a slide showing budgets for paved streets of 375 and unpaved streets of 515. What's the difference between those two budget entries?
So between the 375 for paved streets and the
The
5.
375 and then move forward two slides where it looks like repair of pavement. Is that not roads?
That,
Like, what's the difference
There's a
between this and the earlier dollar amount of 500,000?
So if I could, I think this is what happened. So 355,000 of the 375,000 in paved streets is that contract.
Okay.
We're only talking about those things that had a $20,000 materiality. So the remaining balance of that 375 would be outside of that specific contract and be other items.
Okay, so we're not talking about 375 here plus 515 for the total
The total,
street repair, are we? Or
Yes.
is what?
so difference between paved and unpaved streets, it's 890,000 for repair for paved and unpaved streets together.
Yeah, no, I get that. Let's just focus on paved. So here I have 375, and then in the later slide, I have, is
350.
it 350?
That's just for the contract. The remaining $25,000 or other things
So-
under paved streets, and because it didn't hit the materiality threshold.
Okay.
They
So
would be
those
great.
numbers represent the same work? Okay, so it's
Yeah.
not
Not
300
350
plus
plus
300, it's a
375.
single 300.
Yep, and
Okay.
if you go further down into the detailed breakout, there's 2 line items under paved streets. Be the third to last page, I don't have it numbered. So under the itemized breakout where we have the full budget, there's 2 line items under paved streets. The first line item is just street maintenance materials, and that's 25,000, so that's a 5,000.
And where is this? Where are you looking?
That's in
it's
the
at the
detail in
end
the,
of-
in the
Page
item.
138 in the PDF. That helps.
Gotcha, thank you.
So that's where your 375 is gonna match up with the first screen.
Okay,
And I'm just
okay, I
taking the
see that.
second line item out of that. So the first line item that's identified as street maintenance materials, that was 20 and we're proposing 25.
Yeah.
That is like patching roads. So that's literally picking up material on the road,
Sure.
it's minor patches, so that wasn't over the 25, so I didn't pull it out and highlight it.
Okay.
So within each business unit, I asked department heads not to get into the details on any expense line items that didn't exceed the materiality threshold, so that we could focus on those strategic decisions that would swing the budget.
Gotcha, thank you.
And then just real quick, the repair and maintenance contract is the overlay project, the street maintenance overlay project we do once a year that we bid out to the vendor. So that's under a contract that's due to financial reporting. So we separate like material purchases to a contracted expense.
Okay.
So so now we're back to the screen, this line item where we went from 300 to 350, an increase of 50,000. That's due to the bids that we're getting for laying the asphalt down for our once a year we do a maintenance project in a more rural neighborhood.
Understood, thank you.
So moving on to unpaved streets, actually, we only have 2 line items in this one, so it will be fully complete, which is probably why you notice that discretion in the last one. So we have 2 line items, they're both addressed in here because they both had material changes. The first one is related to purely the increase in when we purchase gravel. So we have roughly half our roads are still gravel, so 32 miles of gravel roads. Every 3 years, we top dress every road in Corcoran. And so the pure material purchasing of the ton of the aggregate material is resulting in a $40,000 increase. I mentioned earlier, we're not expanding our projects, we're not adding anything to it, we're straight taking the cost of the material that we pay for. The raw material went up 32% in that bid. So roughly $6 to $9, that results in a $40,000 cost difference to us in raw material. materials. So inflation is really hard on raw materials.
Mr. Mayor, if I could ask a
Yeah.
question. The number in the past has been about $1 million a mile to pave. What is the guess now, Kevin?
It depends on the width of the, I think
I
maybe
understand.
slightly more than that, but it really depends on the collector road, smaller road, curving. I don't know that I would accurately quote it, but, in general, building a new road is probably more than $1 million.
Okay.
But it depends on the road.
Gotcha. Thanks, man.
Have we seen, I've heard a lot of chatter that the closing of the gravel pits in Maple Grove is actually causing the price increase pretty substantially here.
Yeah, it's hard to open a new gravel pit.
Yeah.
So gravel pits don't last forever. Gravel pits like in Maple Grove are in prime real estate locations, so the market kind of dictates what happens. Businesses, some of these are family businesses, some of these quarries are family businesses, and they don't have someone that wants to, take on the task. So it's a long-term concern. The raw materials, whether it's for a gravel road or that aggregate goes into pavement or concrete, so the raw material problem we have isn't going away.
Right.
The big challenge we have is, we were using all the local ones. If those go away and we have to get material from St. Cloud, that hits in the next line item here where we contracted in with trucking. So not only do you have less supply, that so your demand goes up, but then you also have a longer distance to truck it. So you just have a compounding challenge with raw materials.
What's crazy is back in '87, the comments were that the folks, Maple Grove gravel pits, McCrossins, Bartons, everybody said we want to mine the material, mine the mineral for 20 more years. We're almost 40 years beyond that now, so it's gone well, it's almost done, but there's still some there. And then Hassan, they're closing the one, but open the other one across the street, but I think that's more of a sand resource than gravel. So
Yeah, they're all-
it's getting crazy right now.
Yeah, and it impacts more than just gravel is used in a
Yep.
lot of construction materials. So
Yes, sir.
it's a challenge that just kind of multiplies through our public works budget specifically. So, and like I said, that's the primary increase in public works is by far and away raw materials. So
Yeah.
our alternative is to do less maintenance, which is not advised because I would, we're not ahead of the game. If not, we're slowly falling behind with the amount of mileage we have and the the timing of the investments. So I wouldn't recommend deviating or decreasing what we're doing for maintenance. So the proposal is just applying the raw material increases is what we're presenting with this budget. If you just stay back, I just want to touch just on so that other item, because under a contract, like I mentioned previously, we contract out hauling, so that's a $40,000 increase, and then we actually, dust control falls under unpaved, so that contract had a percentage increase too of roughly 25%. I do want to note that when we bid gravel, we bid it out 2 and 3 year chunks so that we can predict what we're doing in future budgets, and that it also helps the producers know that they have so much, demand coming. So we just renewed both gravel and dust control. So we're locked. Dust control is a 2-year bid, gravel is a 3-year bid. So we have, more stable projections the next year, but then in 2 years you'll see a big jump again when we bid out again. So it's kind of like stepped increases with raw materials. So we are trying to capitalize on a little bit longer window, but we don't want to go too far out either. So just wanted to point that out. Parks. This decrease was just related to some of the reallocations of the rec staff, with an offset by some of the addition of the half part-time, half FTE. So it was a net decrease. I did want to call out revenue. We did have one revenue that met the market or the material threshold. A projected $25,000 increase from the state of Minnesota through our municipal state aid maintenance fund. We haven't had the discussion in a while, we might have it again, but there's a maintenance fund through state aid and there's a construction fund through state aid. we, because of our gravel roads and our need, we maximize the maintenance fund at 35%. So we're allowed to do that. And due to increased mileage and due to increased traffic counts, it drives up our formulaic score. And so we don't know that number, we're projecting a $25,000 increase to the revenue.
Great.
So this is that line-by-line breakdown. If there's additional questions, with that, I turn it over to any further dialogue or questions that the council may have.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
Kevin, I realize I'm catching you flat-footed on this, so I understand if you don't know the answer. Do you know approximately how many miles of unpaved roads we have in Corcoran?
I believe it's low 30s, 32, 34. We haven't calculated it in a while, but that's what's in the comp plan, and we've
Somewhere
only
in there.
paved Appaloosa Woods and Corcoran Trail East, West, and Steed Road, and I guess 66, so, you know, we might have gobbled up a mile in 5 years, if we're lucky.
When we were doing maintenance, Councilmember Barenkamp and I went out and caught them as they were grading, and I asked, and staff at that time said that it was just shy of 34. And so it depends on exactly what all you're calculating, but I believe what they're maintaining is just shy of 34 miles.
Was your question paved or unpaved? Have you ever heard?
Unpaved.
Okay.
So we were roughly 50-50 when I came 5-6 years ago. Between that, we're getting more paved with the new developments, so they're probably pushing 40 miles off the top of my head. So we're getting a little bit more paved than that, but it's low 30s for unpaved roads. And that's a combination of collector roads, which are your primary north-south roads, right? Trailhaven, Beckville, Kane, and then you have your smaller neighborhood roads, and so they have different impacts, and it's a future conversation on where you want to start any process to deviate from that. I'm not saying that's a goal, but you know, the collector roads do carry more traffic, and so, you know, we probably have more maintenance costs with the we do have more maintenance costs with the collector roads than we would a neighborhood cul-de-sac.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? No? Okay. Again, not thinking we need a motion if we're good with the overall number by consensus. Okay. I think we're good. Got everything you need? Perfect.
A lot of good work, you guys.
Yeah, great job.
Maybe just the results part of it.
Okay, then we'll move on to item 8C, which is canvassing the November 5th, 2024 election results.
What is that, 8C?
Yes.
All right, Mayor and Council, I'm just bringing to you tonight the results of the election on November 5th, asking you to go ahead and we're going to canvass through and adopt a motion or consider a motion to adopt resolution 2024-122 declaring the results of the election. Before you on the dais is an extra piece to the packet that you received earlier last week with the write-in tallies, which we did not have when I got the packets together. So that with the results, which is on the screen, received from Hennepin County earlier in the week, and then the tallied write-in reports.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And just wanted to say thank you to staff and to all the volunteers that helped with the election and to all the candidates, to those who won and to those who didn't. It's not easy to put yourself out there and run for office. So for everyone, I thought it was a great job and had some interesting results and should be a good council going forward. So I'm excited to work with you guys going forward and Michelle upcoming and yeah. So with that, I will.
Mr. Mayor, just real quick. I'm trying to understand. There's no conflict of us saying yay or nay.
I think we have to.
Since we were on the ballot, I mean, there's nothing there. I think I asked it when
You
I
actually have to.
originally.
Yeah, we have to.
Gotcha.
You're not allowed to count the votes, but you have to sign that they were
I
counted.
just want to make sure if I'm okay
There
to
was
say
one
yea or
write-in that
nay.
you want to check out that arguably could be counted for you.
Which one's that?
There was one for Mr. Claus on there.
I didn't look
That was
at
in your
that.
race that I
My
think.
wife said I'd laugh when I saw it. I didn't see it. That's my
I forgot
wife.
his name, so I wrote it in.
There you
That's
go.
my wife.
I think you could
So,
bring that one up with the Secretary of State.
It's going home with her, with me, and I'm throwing it right in front of her, so I appreciate that. And one more group of people, all of the election judges,
Yeah.
paid folks and stuff, but obviously it has been, and to you, it has been a long couple of months, something new for you and jumping in. You had some really good election judges that supported you and such. And it's great to see the team that come together, Deb. Very cool. Good job, everybody.
Mr. Mayor, if I could quick, it's important to note the transition and the volatility that we had in staff. So unusual compared to our neighboring jurisdictions to have our clerk and deputy clerk resign the day before the primary started. And so the primary went smoothly. Alicia started the week before as our assistant city administrator and carried it on. And then as just weeks before the election, our new city clerk and the deputy city clerk were in. So those three folks, I just want to say a special thank you. Their Herculean effort with also remarkable turnout results. And so before we opened the polls on the morning of the election, we'd already had 55% early voting turnout in our jurisdiction. And at the completion, when we closed the polls, 93% for our city. And I think it says a lot about our community being active and engaged and interested in what's happening. And then the participation of our election judges, we couldn't do it without them. But also our supporting sites for our polling sites with St. Thomas and with Hope Church. Thank you to those communities. It takes a community to deliver an election.
And then just one more number, Jay, how many registered voters, when I total numbers up, they don't tie together, so.
I want to say it was like,
Was it
on the
36?
Total number of registered persons as of 7 a.m. that morning was 5,460. As of 7 a.m. on November 5th for our jurisdiction.
Okay.
plus then it looks like 200 and some. My eyes are not.
330.
334
On election day.
registered on election day.
New registrations.
So 57-ish.
So for a total of 5,070 voters.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
could I recommend removing Alan Schultz from this resolution?
Yeah. Good
That would
catch.
seem appropriate.
That is a nice catch.
Good catch. Do we need to make a motion to amend that in the?
You don't technically, it's a typo, is what
Okay.
he considers, so she can correct it, yep.
We're all good with
Okay.
that necessary change, I think, for sure.
There's a couple of A's there, you're in there.
Oh, and you're not on it, Mark.
That's right.
Okay, yeah, gotcha. So yeah, swapping out those two. But other than that, with that fix, anything else? Otherwise, I will make a motion to approve resolution 2024-122, canvassing the November 5th, 2024 election return and declaring results.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Congratulations, guys. And with that, we have we have a council report, or maybe more of a staff one, for watershed commission vacancies. Just kind of getting the word out there.
Yes, Mayor, we have been striving to fill our watershed commissioner role since we were notified that he would be leaving. So we tried for about 8 months unsuccessfully, and now we really, really need someone. And thank you to our deputy, Tom Anderson, who stepped up, but also he would like to be done with the watershed. His decades of service to the community, he'd like someone else to step up. And so anyone in the community that is interested, please talk to the city clerk, talk to one of our council members about this opportunity. The application is online, but we need a commissioner and we need a deputy for the watershed.
Do we have something on the sign outside about it?
I'm
No,
not sure that we do. But we will if we don't.
Perfect.
Is there any compensation for that person? Or is it a volunteer like?
The gratitude of a grateful community.
And clean wetlands.
And
It's
and
a
an
very
incredible education
important
about the
position.
environmental standards in our watershed.
Free of charge.
It's a very important position that gets overlooked a lot, but it's arguably one of the most important commission positions we have, at least in an individual capacity. So it's, if you know someone, get the word out. It'd be great to get those filled in the coming months here, so.
Can they
Mayor, I was just gonna add-
overrule a Met Council decision?
I don't know, that'd
They
be a
can
good,
overrule our decision.
depending on what it's on, it could be some good battles. And if it's on the very niche watershed issues, potentially. I don't know that they'd fight them on it, but.
Mr.
Mayor,
Mayor,
I was gonna add just, so they meet once a month, the commission meets once a month, it's the second Tuesday of the month at 11:30.
Okay.
So it's not a night meeting, it's a day meeting, so that benefits some, doesn't benefit others. So I just putting that out there, it's once a month, Tuesday at 11:30. It can go anywhere from an hour to 3 hours.
Could we post it at St. Therese and see if they have any residents who would be interested?
Bellwether, any one of them.
We've been talking about reinitiating, elevating it, and working with the communications team, so we'll continue to, this is kind of step one to re-highlight.
yeah, this was the first step to make sure that we're getting the word out publicly.
There's a number of folks in Bellwether that have told me they want to get involved on a volunteer basis. This would be a good one.
Be a good spot.
If
Do we know
if at all
they ever fill
possible,
their-
put it out there, and then
Community person?
if we don't have anybody, I'll put in a nomination for John Bottom. I can do it since
I'll second.
he's got
You got a
Tuesdays
strong arm
open.
into it. I think he,
I'll
there's plenty he
volunteer
wants to do, I don't know he
Councilmember
wants to
Camp
do that one.
notify.
Yeah.
I'll tell him. You want me to tell him right now? Should I put him on the phone? Anyhow,
Not on speaker.
yeah. That wouldn't go over big. No, it just, Tuesdays?
Tuesdays,
Did I say, I'm sorry, Wednesday, it's the second Wednesday of every month at 11:30. I apologize, thank you for,
Good
second
catch.
Wednesday of every month.
And where are
And
those?
it's moved around, currently it's at the Plymouth Community Center,
Okay.
Second Wednesday.
second Wednesday at 11:30.
If we can get something on social too.
They do serve
the more
pizza.
places, the better.
You want a free lunch?
There you
There you go.
Here's your
It
payment.
has some benefits.
Pepperoni.
Good
But
deal.
in all
with
seriousness,
watered
we,
chestnuts.
we had some interest, but
Yeah.
we need to regenerate some conversations. So
Sounds
please
good.
reach out.
Danny,
Sounds good.
you busy?
If Ollie's not around,
Just giving you a hard time.
I was involved for a month.
Yeah, you were.
But
Thank
Ollie
you.
was the,
Thank you for that.
yeah. So, thank you, but no thank you.
Fair enough.
Not even like an intern for somewhere between 3 months and 10 more years? Yeah, it's a unique place to be. It's a good place. Having conversation with Ken a few weeks ago. It is something that, needs to be
Big
a
shoes to fill.
focus here.
Yep, for sure. Any other council mayor reports, or mayor council reports? Yeah, I don't have anything.
I wanted something, but I forgot what it was.
Okay,
Never not important enough, I guess.
always next time.
Oh, yes, there was.
Go for
I did send a picture to you, Jay, and Kevin. Have you guys been able to address that with our
That-
friends in Bellwether, Amberley?
Yes, the picture actually had a shelf life, so that was a little bit old. We were aware of some of that traffic. And
Okay.
it had been dealt with. It was just the notification. So we're tracking, it's been handled.
They drove right over everything in that
Yeah, I
pathway,
mean,
so.
we have tried to monitor it. If we see one, we can nip it in the bud. I mean, we're doing, I think, the best we can do, and when someone new comes out there, we, have to work with them on it. So after that episode, we actually, Pulte paid for additional signage, and we redid it.
Got it. I haven't been down there
And that
lately.
actually wasn't a Pulte contractor, so.
Yeah, and I don't know why I didn't get that email. It showed up on my email on Monday, and I think it was dated mid-October, so.
So if it does reassure you, I had sent photos to Kevin that same day, because I had driven out there, and I had seen it, and it wasn't just that, it went into other areas either, and our team was on it immediately.
Well, I bet you were. It's a great neighborhood, and the inevitable will come soon, but doesn't need to be. So thank you very much for looking at that. That was the only thing.
All right.
And
Sounds
I'll be
good.
quiet.
No, good deal.
Promise.
With that, we have our city council schedule upcoming in the packet as usual. Only 2 more meetings this year?
Mr. Mayor, if I could highlight a couple things, important to note that our next meeting actually occurs on a Monday as a change as a result of Thanksgiving. And so Monday evening, November 25th will be our next meeting. And then December 12th will be our last meeting of 2024. That will also be our truth and taxation meeting for the community to be aware of. Every resident should have received notification. It's on our sign. It went out into the quarterly newsletter. December 12th is the truth and taxation meeting. A question that I have for the council is currently the 14th and the 28th of January, which are Tuesdays, have been scheduled as strategic work sessions. We just wanted to get strategic work sessions on the agenda. We have flexibility in order to flex with your schedule, but we're also aware that some council members will be coming on board between now and the first, for that first meeting in January. And there may be a conflict with their schedule with a Tuesday night meeting. And I think some of our current council members may have some challenges with Tuesday night meetings. And so I just raise that up for your discussion. We need to do some strategic planning. We could do it as an earlier work session. We could do it another day of the week. We could do it on a Saturday,
What time were you thinking for those, if we did it those days?
So we had planned as an evening schedule, but I don't know that that will work. That's why I'm just highlighting it
Put it out there.
for your discussion. We need to do some strategic planning. These were templated as days that we were proposing. If those don't work, what would you propose? That's our question.
Couple hours, how long are you thinking?
Unlike previous years, like our last strategic planning session, we only did about 3 hours. We have some big deal strategic discussions that we need to have.
Okay.
And we need to validate our framework. So what I did last year was I just reheated and served our previous framework. We need to talk about, is that the framework that we have? Is that the framework we want to use going forward? And so I would suspect that we need at least 4 hours for each day. Or we could change that up into more bite-sized bits and do it over a longer period of time. I'm very open to how we could do it. But dedicated time, I would suspect that we probably need a good 8 hours of working. And that's not no's, that's just scheduled. Taking breaks for snacks and as we need to, nourishment, etc.
On the calendar, those days work for me. Those days
I'm good with both.
I think I can do it.
Cool. Mark?
Is there a preferred time?
6 a.m.
Not that.
My calendar just filled.
Yeah, I'm out of town.
Danny, you'll be there, won't you? He's giving that up too. No, if it's 4 hours a crack, you're talking 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon to get done by 9.
Yeah.
Unless somebody wants to go longer. I can
Or
go
a
in.
daytime schedule, if that is feasible. I don't know people's commitments. And again, I don't say that in jest. If a Saturday is better for folks, I recognize competing commitments.
It seems like those days might work, so wanna maybe look into if we did like a 4:30-ish start or something?
It's my Sunday, so I'm wide open on that day. I'll open to whatever you guys want to do.
So 4:30.
Draft it for a 4:30 to 8:30 for each of those windows. Is that would be the preference?
That'd be neat.
Works for me.
Any other feedback?
Let's try it.
Okay.
Put that out there to new council member and
Yep.
check with them too.
So the next question is, we have Elected Leaders Institute, registration came out today. And so there's 2 different sessions. One is the advanced program for those who have been on for a full term or longer. And then the other one is what they call the foundational program, which is those who you're in your first term. The February 7th through the 8th is the foundational program in Mankato. February 21st through the 22nd, they offer both programs just here in Plymouth. And so our proposal, I think it might be great if you all went together as you're able for the February 21st and 22nd. There's also a 3rd session that is up in Alexandria, February 28th through March 1st. So all we'd ask, and you don't need to decide now, but if you could let Alicia know which dates you prefer so that we can get you registered.
Actually, if you want to tentatively put me down for the Plymouth one, February 21st and 2nd, I think I can make that work.
And then the last one, looking way out into June, both in terms of professional development and team building, the League of Minnesota Cities Conference is a great opportunity. This year it will be in Duluth. It occurs from June 25th until June 27th. And we have budgeted for this so that we would like primary staff and council members to all attend if possible. This last year it was in Rochester, and our schedule, we had council meeting in the middle of that, so we didn't send any representation this year. And so if we were to attend, a majority of us, if not all of us, June 25th through the 27th, we would need to move our scheduled council meeting, and the proposal would be that we move it to the Monday of that week, which would be June 23rd. And so as we're trying to do the long-term calendar, both in terms of scheduling, because when the conference schedule comes up, if we know who is going to attend, we can just go ahead and register folks right away. And then the follow-up is, unless folks don't want to go, we need to move the council date to that Monday, or an alternative date if you have a proposal.
Sounds good. I'm assuming probably not everyone knows I don't know my June schedule offhand.
I'm not
now.
available.
Oh, fair enough.
Okay.
I may be, if I'm available, I'm happy to go. I just had to look into at least my work stuff, because I have a work conference generally around.
If you've already
but I
sent
don't know exactly when it's
those
gonna be.
dates to us via email.
Yep, and they're also on the schedule
Yep.
that you have in the
Okay.
packet. And if you could let Alicia know, because just like we weren't expecting the registration to pop, it popped up today, and it fills up quickly. And so if we want to get you registered for the preferred training dates, the sooner that we know, the sooner we can secure those dates for you.
That's for the that's for February.
That's for that training.
Yeah.
And then the conference dates, they haven't sent to us yet, but I imagine it'll sneak up on us just like it just did.
Sounds good.
I mean, it's November and they're having a schedule for February. It came up pretty fast.
Fine.
That's all we
Well,
have for the long-term schedule, unless there's some things that council wants to make sure that we get on the schedule.
I think that's good. We'll do a probably more in-depth review of the dates when we set our schedule for 2025 at the either December or 1st January meeting.
Yep.
But generally, it looks good. So, cool. And other than that, if there's nothing else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Darren Camp.
Second, McKee. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.